Good Friday afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to yet another edition of The Chat, the Alan Fitz Podcasting Productions. Again, good afternoon. Alan Fitz, your host for the program this morning, live from our studios here in Amarillo, Texas, and welcome into the show. Well, it's already mid-October, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to talk about something today that we all need to be concerned about. And as the weather begins getting cooler and we start to go into the late fall months and early winter, you know what that means. Yeah, you're going to start hearing boom, boom, boom out in the woods. We're going to talk a little bit about hunter safety on the program this afternoon. Unfortunately, each year, many innocent folks are killed in the sport of hunting. And here in Texas, as we are getting into the squirrel season and right around the corner for the deer season and even the bow and arrow season, for those felons out there that are not able to possess firearms in the woods, I want to talk a little bit about safety and some common sense with folks out in the woods with deadly weapons. Those deadly weapons could be a shotgun for a squirrel. It could be a high-powered rifle for the big buck out there with the 8, 9, 10 points, big trophy buck, for the husband to take home and brag to the wife and all the buddies while they sit around maybe a late Saturday afternoon barbecue drinking beer, or even, as I stated before, bow and arrow season. Folks, each year, as I stated previously, a lot of people do not use common sense when they are in the woods. I remember years and years ago, I went to school with an individual, went hunting with him one season. He would shoot anything that would move, and that is where I'm going with the program this afternoon. That is absolutely dangerous. Now, let me explain something to you. And yes, we're here in Texas, and you know, we have our own state laws like any other state has, but let me explain something to you that would probably carry over outside the state lines of Texas, and it's just common sense. When you pull the trigger on a firearm, two things happen at that precise second. Number one, you cannot get the bullet back no matter what you do. That bullet is out of its casing and it's gone. The second most important thing to remember is that once you pull that trigger, everything that bullet comes in contact with, you are legally responsible for. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, some people will shoot at anything that moves. You have what they call desperate hunters that go out every year. These are known as the poachers. They don't follow state laws. They will shoot off of a roadway. They will shoot out of season. And anything that they can bag and bring home, gut clean and put in their deep freeze, they have no concern about anything but getting that deer meat into their freezer back at home. But this is where the danger comes in of people not using common sense when it comes to hunting. You have to remember that it is one of those times of year that any game warden here across the Great Lone Star will tell you, get out there, hunt the game, bring your children, make it a day of outing. But the game wardens will also tell you, you need to be legal about what you're doing, such as hunting licenses. Now, in some states, including Texas, hunter education is mandatory. Now, before the recording of this program, I did not have the opportunity to look up the state laws to find out exactly what the minimum age requirements were and this, that, and all that other good stuff. But I will tell you that hunter orange is required here in Texas. If you're going to be out in the woods hunting, folks, use some common sense and wear hunter orange. This is something that is highly fluorescent to the eyes of a nearby hunter. People getting out and wearing camouflage in the woods, I know guys out there, I understand where you're coming from. It's something that all men like to do. I get it. I'm a man just like you are. But it's actually stupid for you to do this. Now, first of all, we did some research on this situation, and come to find out, deer are actually colorblind when it comes to the fluorescent orange. They cannot make out that color that you are wearing. We actually read this in an article from the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. So wearing the camouflage is not necessarily needed, and all the black eye paint under the eyelids. You need to wear something when you are outside of your deer stand, and that needs to be hunter orange. And the reason that the game wardens of this state actually keep stressing this, they keep writing people tickets for not doing it, especially the youngsters, is because if you're wearing camos on your hunt and a hunter is up in a deer stand somewhere, he can't make you out. It's as simple as that. But the eye is trained to spot that bright fluorescent orange. So folks, use some common safety if you're going to be in the woods. Not just common safety, but common sense to go along with it. When you are going from your vehicle to your deer stand and back, please make sure you are wearing that hunter orange along with the hunter orange cap. It could save your life. Something else that I want to bring up on the program this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, is people getting up in deer stands and again shooting at anything that they see move. Again, I talked about earlier in the program that you are legally responsible for everything that bullet does until it comes to a stop. People showing disregard for safety in a deer stand, not a wise decision, folks, especially if the hunter is in the deer stand and they have been drinking alcoholic beverages. Now, we all know, and we've all heard the stories behind this, that there are some hunters that like to go out in freezing weather and take maybe a little snort of bottle with them, a little snort of vodka, take a little snort here and there off of the half pint. Folks, this is actually one of the dumbest things that a hunter can do, is be in possession of a high-powered rifle and be intoxicated at the same time. It just doesn't mix. Alcohol and firearms don't mix like gasoline and matches. It is important to be completely sober when you are performing any type of hunting activity, especially with high-powered firearms such as 30-06 rifles and things of that nature. Now, one of the problems that we have read about over the past several years is that the hunters will get up in the deer stand and again just about shoot at anything that moves. Now, where this problem comes in, and I'm going to tell you a true story that happened to me decades ago. And I should back up and say that it did not happen to me. This is something that I heard about that actually happened in a hunting incident. and it was confirmed to be true. There was an individual about 40 something plus years ago, and this was back in East Texas where I grew up, that it was a son and father team that had went hunting in the big thicket, and he placed his son up in the deer stand, and then he went to his deer stand, which was roughly about a football field away, about 100 yards, folks. And they had been in the deer stand, from what I heard, about 3.5 to 4 hours. It was a very, very cold December morning. I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, folks, it was on a Sunday morning. Very, very cold outside. It was down near the freeze mark. And after about 4 hours, the father heard a shot ring out to his right. And this would put him pretty much in the vicinity of where his son was sitting in a deer stand. And naturally, the father got down and went to the area where the son was, and they had met midway walking, attempting to track a deer that he claims he saw in the scope of this high-powered rifle. After a brief search, folks, come to find out that the child actually shot a hole in the radiator of their Jeep. Folks, this is what I'm talking about. This is a dangerous scenario. What if someone had been sitting in that Jeep? What if someone, another innocent hunter, had been walking in that area in direct line of that bullet? It would have been catastrophic. Please make sure that any time you are about to pull the trigger on a weapon, especially looking into the scope of that weapon, not only double check it, ladies and gentlemen, but triple check it. Because the point that I'm trying to make at this given time is that you can shoot a deer, okay? A deer can be replaced by the birth of another deer. You can shoot by accident maybe a garbage can that is in your sights and put a hole through it. That garbage can be replaced. You go out and buy another one. But a human life, ladies and gentlemen, is what I'm talking about right now. That cannot be replaced. Yeah, the mother can give birth to another child. That's absolutely true, but it's not the same child. And stupidity in the woods can lead to a fatality in the blink of an eye. Let's use some common sense, folks. You ladies and gentlemen that like to go out and go hunting every year, it is very, very important that you use and highly respect common sense and the dangers of pulling the trigger on a high-powered weapon. Now, this same scenario would also apply to the bow and arrow hunters out there during the archery season. These arrows with these razor-sharp tips flying through the woods at that trophy buck can be just as deadly as that high-powered bullet coming out of the rifle. We need to make sure that those folks also utilize common sense and knowledge before releasing that arrow from that bow. Every year, folks are hospitalized that don't get killed from useless hunting accidents in the woods. So, with that being said, folks, if you're going out to hunt, you're going out trying to get that trophy buck, use, again, and I can't stress this enough, use some common sense when you're in the woods. Now, something else that I want to talk about on the program this afternoon doesn't really have anything to do with hunting, but it can actually affect you while you're hunting. There are areas of this state that remain warm enough during the beginning of hunting season that you hunters out there in the woods need to be aware of. And it really has to get down to a hard freeze before it's all eliminated. And we're talking about ticks in the woods. A lot of hunters don't realize this, but you know, they get out in a deer stand and they shoot this big 10-point buck, and they're walking back to their vehicle, and it's a semi-cool day, and all they've got on their mind is getting that buck tagged and getting that buck home, or even field dressing that buck where it lays, and then getting it home and getting it into the deep freeze. One thing that the hunter sometimes doesn't realize is that now you're carrying around ticks, and everybody knows, and in case you don't know, deer do carry ticks, but some of these ticks will get on the hunter's clothes, and they will carry these ticks home, and then you've got an infestation problem later on if the tick makes its way inside your house and gets into a warm environment. Our suggestion to the hunters out there is, and I know a lot of you ladies and gentlemen may kind of snicker at this, but again, let's use some common sense. It is highly recommended, if you have been out in the woods, to strip off your outer clothing before you enter your home and inspect that clothing. Some of the experts recommend take it directly to your washing machine in your laundry room and wash it in very hot water to kill anything related to a tick that you could bring inside your home. Some variations of ticks across the state carry Lyme disease, and this is not something that you want to bring into your home and expose to your family or your children. So strip it off and get it into hot water just for safety's sake. In closing of the program, ladies and gentlemen, for the chat this afternoon, it's an exciting time, especially for a lot of young folks and even those husbands alike, to go out and hunt every year in the woods. I'll admit to you myself, there's nothing that tastes any better than backstrap from a deer. It's liquid gold, a lot of hunters call. But again, using common sense to get from point A to point B accident free is the name of the game in general. Get out in the woods. If you have a son or daughter that is interested in hunting, teach these individuals before hunting season. Go out to your local shooting range. Teach them how to operate a firearm safely, and get up in those deer stands and enjoy your hunt. Before I do close the show out this afternoon, I want to let everyone know of something important that I feel like I need to bring to you listeners this afternoon, and it's those poachers out there. We don't need poachers, but unfortunately, we deal with this every year along with the game wardens. They take more than what they are legally required to. What this does, it depletes the resources of folks that are out legally hunting. You know, that's why, folks, we have rules and regulations behind hunting game, because it's needs to be open, fair game for everyone. Each year you hear about, well, unfortunately, people stopping on a dirt road and shooting a buck decoy, which is a criminal offense in any state of the United States. Please remember that shooting from a public right-of-way, a road in Texas, is a violation of the law. Do not shoot any weapons from your vehicle. One of the reasons that I stress this, and the game wardens of Texas would also stress this to you as well, is because what happens is, when you pull that weapon through your window and you pull the trigger, you can't see your backstop. You can't see where all that bullet is going to go until it stops. So, please, for the safety of innocent people in the woods, make sure that you follow the rules and regulations as set forth by the Texas Parks and Wildlife. Wear your hunter orange and treat every weapon, regardless whether you know it's unloaded or not. Always treat a weapon as if it were loaded and ready to fire. Keep those safeties on and get ready. Deer season is right around the corner. And that's going to wrap it up for this Friday afternoon edition of the chat. Thank you for listening in. I'll be back next Friday with another interesting topic to discuss. Until such time, this is Alan Fitz, live from our studios here in Amarillo, Texas, saying have a great weekend. And until we meet again next Friday, bye for now.